and a fraught question of who makes up the shortfall in energy and at what cost.
The tide has turned. No more Russian oil shipments to the United States of America.
Russian oil will no longer be acceptable at U.S. ports, and the American people will deal another powerful blow to Putin's war machine.
This is a bold call for President Biden in a midterm election year. Indeed, it was a move the White House argued 2 weeks ago would hurt the US more than Russia. This boycott will send up the global price of crude oil further, hitting Americans in the pocket when they pay for petrol. Yet the really big economic and geopolitical question is whether Europe will follow America's lead. America only takes 1.5% of Russia's oil exports. Their biggest customer by far is Europe. They take half. The UK government has committed to do the same as the US, but all eyes are on EU leaders such as Emmanuel Macron and Olaf Scholz, seen here at the G7. Russia supplies 30% of Germany's oil.
I think it's much harder for Europe to act in this way. It's much more dependent on Russian oil. There aren't any easy or immediate solutions to replace those Russian supplies without a massive impact on the consumers and the European economy. So I think European policymakers and leaders, when they meet at the end of this week, are going to be trying to find out just how far can we go, how close can we get to commitments to phase out or reduce our dependence without forcing the lights off at home.
But what if they did follow? Major oil producers have been sanctioned by the West in the past, the likes of Iran, Iraq and Venezuela, but none on the scale of Russia. It pumps around 11 million barrels a day, around a tenth of global production. If you take even half of that volume out of global circulation, it will have a huge impact on global energy prices. This is why America is pressuring allies such as Saudi Arabia to pump more, and even seeking to get more production from formerly unfriendly states such as Iran and Venezuela. The other big question is how will Russia respond to the US boycott? The country's Deputy Prime Minister, Alexander Novak, threatened last night that his country could shut off Russian gas exports to the EU in retaliation. The EU unveiled a plan today to reduce Russian gas imports by 2/3 by the end of this year, but they're not ready to go cold turkey straight away, despite the urgings of some. To understand why, let's remind ourselves just how reliant on Russian gas Europe is. Russia supplies 40% of Europe's gas at the moment. The UK's gas imports from Russia are estimated to be small, less than 5% of the total. But in Germany and Italy it's around 50%, and virtually all of the gas consumed in states like Finland and Latvia is Russian. This is a crisis where what seemed unlikely, even inconceivable one day, becomes reality the next. It's now not impossible to imagine a full halt to Russian energy exports to the West. The economic implications of that, they're sobering. Is there a ceiling on how high these energy prices could go?
Technically, no, because there is no swing spare capacity coming in. There's no tap or switch that can be turned on instantly from the supply side of view. And from demand, it has to reach levels where it starts to get painful for the average user. But there could be a long period of high prices, which would be very painful for consumers around the world.
People talk about the 1970s. Is that the best historical analogy that we have?
I think there are certainly parallels where you have the Arab oil embargoes and you did have huge spikes in prices, big slowdowns in the economy. But I would say the only thing is that was primarily just on oil. Here we're talking, certainly for continental Europe, about gas, about natural gas, about coal, and about crude oil. And I think that combination, there isn't really a historical precedent for if we were to lose or cut off supply of all of them.
So, an unprecedented energy crunch could be around the corner, and perhaps a freezing up of the global economy.
Ben Chu will joining us.